Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Hello and welcome back to the Ask Ralph Show. Today I thought I'd talk about a sort of difficult topic, but there was an article that ran in the Sunday News Journal. It was written by a guy by the name of Robert Powell, who's an editor of the Streets Retirement Daily and contributes to USA Today very frequently. And his website is allthingsretirement.com, and he asks a simple question. How to prepare yourself financially for a spouse's death. Now, this is not something that I don't think anybody really has an interest in talking about, but it's something that we do need to address. And the reason we need to address that is there was a study by Merrill Lynch and Age Wave, which determined that 53% of widowers had no plan. Now, what that basically means is that there's no plan in place, in the event that one spouse dies before another one. Now, there's a lot of risks that go into life, but this is a certainty. Unless you happen to die together, there's a very good chance that one of your spouses is going to die. Not one of your spouses, but your spouse may die. So going back to the statistics they mentioned here, it's more than 53% of widows say they and their spouse did not have a plan for what would happen if one of them died. 76% of married retirees say they would not be financially prepared for retirement if their spouse died. And following the death of a spouse, half of widows experience a household income decline of 50% or more. Now, this is a big deal. And I see this in my practice quite a bit, where a spouse passes away and the other spouse really had no idea, first of all, what the spouse may have as far as assets go, but then what the impact of that would be on them, once that spouse passed away. So let's talk about some ways to mitigate this. One of the obvious things to do, and it sort of talked about right at the end, is to have a plan, plan for the obvious. There are 20 million widows currently in the U.S. and 1.4 million new widows annually. So this happens very frequently. Again, this is according to that Merrill Lynch Age Wave study. Now, with that being said, most married couples don't like discussing or planning for death. Well, obviously that makes sense. It's sort of like preparing for death by going out and picking, your burial plots or picking out your coffin or pre-planning. But it's something we all really need to take a look at. But it's something that we really should tackle head on, given the potentially the dire consequences of it. This is going to be a big problem. So how do you do that? Well, you got to get help. If you need help, consider talking to a qualified, trusted, and competent advisor such as a certified financial planner. Now, if you are a new widow, you need a comprehensive financial evaluation and plan. This is something you need to sit down with somebody and go over everything that's going on. You need to look at the potential cash flow issues that emerge after a death of a spouse. It could be something as simple as you're used to living on a certain level of income because, let's say, your spouse gets Social Security and a retirement package. Well, maybe that retirement package ceases when the spouse dies. So now all of a sudden, you could be looking at a substantially lower amount of income coming in on a monthly basis. So this is something that will, directly impact your cash flow. And this is something that, if you're waiting till after you're a widow, it might be too late. Working with a certified financial planner long before becoming a widow or a widower really makes sense. Because what happens is, once you become that widower, you might make mistakes that could be difficult to recover from. Now, in addition to your certified financial planner, you might want to look at working with an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney as well. When I meet with my clients, a lot of times we'll have a discussion about this because I'll say to them, what have you planned for retirement? And then we get into a discussion of, do you have the legal documents in place for your retirement so that you'll be successful? The person that wrote this article says, according to Watkins, an experienced and knowledgeable elder law attorney can perform a detailed inventory of the available financial resources and help integrate Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other programs to maximize the benefit received. So this is where a good financial planning attorney, or some people refer to him as an elder law attorney, can help you put together a plan that to preserve those assets and protect your wealth. For example, Due to the stringent requirements to qualify for Medicaid, estate attorneys will often draft an income-only trust to make sure an individual qualifies for Medicaid. That's something you need to consider. The next thing you want to talk about, so we've talked about hiring a certified financial planner to look at what you've got in place. We talked about hiring an estate attorney or an elder law attorney, and then answer the question of, do you have enough insurance? This isn't really a discussion of term life versus cash value. It's really a discussion of, do you have enough life insurance? And you need to get the amount that you need in advance so that you have any unexpected premature death. Now, what am I talking about here? And it's really simple, actually. Let's say that you're a younger couple, and both of you and your wife or you and your husband have life insurance. Well, let's say one of you is a stay-at-home, mother. Well, if the stay-at-home mother was to pass away, the income requirements might be a lot less than that of the person who is maybe out working. So there may need to be a different level of insurance when compared to the other person. So that's something you want to consider. A lot of people get hung up on the next thing, and that is don't fret about estate taxes. What about estate taxes? What happens if, is there going to be a lot of tax? Well, the current federal estate tax exemption is $5.6 million per person. Well, most people, that's not going to be an impactful thing. But one of the things you may want to consider is what's in your retirement accounts and the beneficiaries of those accounts. First of all, make sure that you've named a beneficiary to each of your accounts. I've dealt with situations where clients have come to me after the passing of a spouse, and there was no named beneficiary. And that creates a lot of problems because now all of a sudden, those retirement accounts need to be distributed to someone, and absent a beneficiary, they may end up getting distributed to an estate, which is going to have a higher tax rate. In addition to that, the beneficiaries need to do a forensic analysis of the inherited plan's portfolio to determine if the funds are legally prudent and appropriate given the changed circumstances. Take a look at the plan and see, does it still make sense for what you need to accomplish? And the key to all of this is planning. It's to determine exactly what the available financial resources are and calculate financial needs. It's not rocket science. Then plan on the best way to maximize those resources while getting additional ones through government benefit programs. But all this comes down to planning and having a discussion with your spouse about, what happens if. Like I said, get a plan, get help. Look at a financial planner. Take a look at hiring an estate attorney. Look at your insurance mix. Talk with your insurance agent. See if that makes sense. And look at your retirement plans and make sure you've got named beneficiaries. And then take a look at the portfolio mix if you happen to be a surviving spouse or widower. So I hope this was helpful, talking about preparing yourself for a spouse's death. I know it's not a fun topic to talk about, but something you really need to consider.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware, and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.